A $500 subsidy will soon be available to Queenslanders to help protect their cars from being stolen. So let's bring in today's talkers, Nationals leader David Littleproud from Ryford in Queensland and Nova's Michelle Stevenson, who's here in the studio with us. We'll start with you, David. This money will go towards installing engine immobilisers in cars. Do you think this will work?
Well, it's an initiative that actually is a reflection of the fact that the Queensland government's lost control of our streets. The fact that we're actually going to try and treat the symptoms rather than actually have some preventative care shows that the legislation they've got at the moment in protecting people from these young juveniles, effectively, which are the majority that are undertaking this, isn't working. And I think that's about tougher laws, but it's not necessarily just putting them into detention. I think what we've got to do is learn from what has worked in the past, and what I saw worked in the past here, particularly in Queensland, was outback camps, where we actually sent these juvenile people out into the outback to actually remove them from society, but to learn about themselves and to give them new skills and to understand more about themselves. And it had a great success rate. So I think it's not just about these programs, it's about understanding we've got to do things differently. We've hit a tipping point here in Queensland and many other parts of the country where people just don't feel safe. And that's when governments have to inject themselves and change policy settings for the greater of the good.
Michelle, what do you think? I mean, it is treating the symptom rather than the cause. What else should the governments be doing?
I mean, we've seen this time and time again. Queensland is just not doing enough, and I think this is a grassroots issue, as David Littleproud said. We've got to look at what the cause is and not just treat the symptoms. We've got to get the community up and about and get everyone united in helping these youth and get them aligned into the community and what that means for them. I don't know. I think we're seeing a lot of young kids who are just losing faith in the system, and I think we need to step in and do something bigger than what's happening right now.
Yeah, some of the people being arrested are like 11 years old. I mean, let's move on to another issue now, which is the Voice to Parliament referendum, and reports this morning that the Yes side plans to ditch celebrity endorsements and focus more on ordinary Australians to push its case. David, you and the Nationals are supporting the No side of this campaign. Does this make you nervous?
No, it's not necessarily who's selling the Yes case, it's actually what they're selling. And we're repeating mistakes of the past, and that's why the Nationals didn't support this to start with. We've got the lived experience of the last time we had a representative body. It was called ATSIC. And those failures and the consequences of that is what we see where the disadvantage is. And that's the principal position that we took, but also the fact that if this was just about constitutional recognition, we'd sign up. In fact, we'd be the first ones there. And I think the Prime Minister's got an opportunity to show leadership and courage to actually step away from this and make it just about constitutional recognition. You only have to look at the polls. He's divided the country. The opportunity's here to bring us together. Let's make this about a set of words that actually gives the recognition that Indigenous Australians want. And let's work towards closing the gap with the practical measures rather than repeating the mistakes of the past. That's our position, and I think that's what Australians are slowly waking up to and understanding. But I think there's a moment here for all political leaders to step up, show some courage and say, let's lead our country, let's lead it together and have that constitutional recognition. That's what we all want.
What do you think, Michelle? Should the Prime Minister change how he's going to do it and just do constitutional recognition?
Yeah,
what does the Yes case need?
I think the Yes case needs clarity. I think a lot of people are very confused about what's going on right now. Regular, everyday people, Australians, are really not unsure about what it is that they're signing up for. And I think that's because the waters have been muddied with both sides having a go. So I think, clarity is the key here. And we really need, I think it makes sense that the Yes campaign is going for more everyday Australians because they're the ones that we really need to kind of drive home what this is about. But, I'm confused and I'm a journalist, so I feel like we need a little bit more clarity here.
David, why do you think support for the Voice has been slipping in referendum in recent polls?
Well, it's the unknown, and I think that's exactly what's just been articulated. It's about people not knowing what they're going to change, and it's permanent. The Prime Minister won't even take the Australian people into his trust and put the mechanics of the Voice in Parliament for everyone to see before the Yes case, because he says that it'll only show that after it gets up. But wouldn't you take the Australian people into your trust? If you don't, then why would they trust you? This is a permanent change to our constitution, and then when you've got legal minds arguing, and then the courts in the High Court interprets it a different way, we could be stuck with something we don't know the consequence of, and it's the unknown. And this is where the conflation between a voice and constitutional recognition can be changed. And I just think we're up for the leadership of this nation to show, let's just go back to constitutional recognition, let's do this properly, let's not divide the country. I think it's a pivotal moment in our nation's history, and we shouldn't let it slip by because of the fact that we're just hell-bent on going one direction that won't shift the dial and closing the gap, particularly in my part of the world.